Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. You know, there's been a lot of wins in the last week in the 2A that, I tried to stay out of the politics because everyone knows who they're going to vote for. Hopefully it's not someone from the diversity train. But in general, what have we won? So they've stayed completely, the pistol brace thing, so that's not even a thing. They're going to continue to fight at the ATF, and when I say they, the ATF. So that battle has been won. Okay, the forced reset triggers, FRT triggers, those have been set aside now. We know that they're not machine guns. Duh, we knew this. Bump stocks. Not only are they going to have to return bump stocks, they're going to have to return the FRT triggers too, because judges have said no. In the latest win, one that is monumental and is already making its way to the Supreme Court, is U.S. versus Morgan. So this is a case out of Wichita, Kansas. This is something you should be paying very close attention to and advocating for Morgan to win. What has happened in Wichita is that a judge, Judge John Brooms, said that machine guns are part of the 2A. So the background on this case. This person was popped with an AR-15 in a 300 black that had been converted and a Glock switch pistol. And they threw the book at him. In case you didn't know, any firearms charges like that are going to result in a felony charge. 20 years in jail at minimum. Okay? Federal jail. So, this person put out a case, a legal brief, or a legal, sued them, and he won. What is now happening is the ATF is now having kittens, and how the judge came to this decision is using the 2022 Bruen decision. Now, we've talked about Bruen. Bruen says that you have to look at the context of the law that you're trying to pass, especially in the 2A, and you have to look at historical context in particular. Now, why is that important? Thinking back to our founding fathers. Now, all of us agree with this, and if you don't, you're listening to the wrong podcast. But all of us agree that our founding fathers said the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, period. That means anything, up to nukes if you can afford it. People don't like hearing that because there's a lot of guys that don't trust themselves with even a nuke. I personally do because I don't want to nuke my entire city, my town, my country, nothing like that. I don't want no nuclear devices being detonated on the U.S. soil. To that end, if I had one, I would probably destroy it or put it somewhere else because I don't want that bad coming out from me, okay? I believe in self-defense. I have no problems with anyone that could afford to keep a nuke. But that being said, I'm not a nuke guy. However, I do believe that a fully automatic machine gun, an actual assault weapon, is 100% covered by our founding fathers' Second Amendment choices that they put down, codified, and put in the Bill of Rights. Because it gives us parity to what the military has. If we cannot have those other things, because we cannot afford our carrier battle group, and we cannot afford F-15s, we should have every other means that we can afford up to and including fully automatic machine guns. So, what does this happen? What does this ruling do for us? Couple things. Well, now that the Supreme Court has to go up and listen to this and listen to the appeal because this has actually been accepted by the Supreme Court to my understanding, there is going to be a ruling from this. Now, one of two ways this could go. We could lose. Given the current makeup of the court, if this is done before the election, which I don't believe it will, but if it's done after the election with the right president, this could actually be a huge win and allow us to own machine guns again, like we could in the 80s. Now, there's good and bad here. Anyone who's ever shot a machine gun, I've shot several now, so I can honestly say that, realizes some things that are very inherent to a machine gun. They use a lot of ammo. And in today's day and age where ammunition is really expensive, a machine gun is probably not something that your average Joe's really interested in. And if they are, it's because of the cool factor. That said, an MP5 would be a marvelous addition to my... I already have one, but if I could convert my MP5 to a fully automatic machine gun, I would if it was legal to do so. I don't. I'm about to make it legal. Right now it is in a pistol form, but I would like to make it into a short-barreled rifle at some point, and I will buy the stuff to do that, and I'll pay for my tax stamp when it's time. But I'm really tired of any type of thing like this. This is something that our founding fathers never, ever would have allowed, and it's been allowed for too long, since 1968 for the NFA, and for machine guns 1986 with Reagan. So we have some good news. In that same vein, there are rumors, and there are several videos out, and I haven't watched them all yet, and I'll bring an update tomorrow, that suppressors may be taken off the NFA. Now, I've seen these kind of late in the day, so I didn't get too involved in them. I figured I would save that for tomorrow. But it makes me think about the hope, for some country that has really taken a beating when it came to the Second Amendment and our rights, it seems like we're winning right now in a lot of ways, and this is dependent on the election that we had. The election that we had, the previous president did put people in the right places for the courts for us to usher in these wins. He's also the one that made us have these battles, protracted battles, especially with the pistol braces and the bump stocks, because he gave the ATF too much power. The ATF is about the most worthless department on planet Earth, the only terrorist prevention department that has never caught a terrorist. I see the value in what they do, don't get me wrong, tracing firearms to help find criminals or to keep criminals from getting guns, but I think the FBI or even local law enforcement can probably do it better. The ATF likes to show their butt and do stuff like this, and they are consistent in not being with us anymore. There was a point in time the ATF was kind of on our side. They're definitely not anymore, and I'm okay with that department going away. As far as the election, if you haven't heard, two prominent Democrats have endorsed Trump. So what does that mean? Tulsi Gabbard, she's one of the greatest ladies I actually would have considered voting for, except for her stance for the 2A at the time. It was very anti-2A. She has since came around. So has RFK Jr., according to what he said. I don't believe it with RFK. However, I do think it's interesting that both of them said that the party that the Democrats now represent is not the former liberal Democrat party that it once was. It's more communistic, which I would agree with wholeheartedly. In case you can't tell, mostly because I am a 2A advocate, extreme advocate, that you will never see me vote for a Democrat because they're wanting to strip our rights. That said, voting for a Republican, you'll see me vomit in my mouth and grudgingly accept it because they're not much better, if better at all. And that's because our political system has been kind of sidetracked for a long time. That's why I'm not too focused on what's going on. What will happen will happen. I'm putting this firmly in my faith and letting God decide. I'm going to do my part, of course. I'm going to vote for what it's worth. But I'm not too worried about the outcome. What is meant to happen will happen. I still take a great stock in something that one of my really good friends said a long time ago. Let them try to take guns away from the United States citizens because it's not going to happen. As I've talked about the stats before, there are over 400 million and there are only 330 million people in the United States. There are not enough law enforcement agencies. There's not enough soldiers in the United States to do this. So they're not going to be able to do it. Whether or not they ban them outright and say you can't have them, that's a different story. Whether or not they go door to door to try to enforce that ban, that's never going to happen. What else could I say that's going on? There's a lot of cool stuff that's happening in the 2A world. I'm such a huge fan of Forgotten Weapons and Ian, and I like seeing him go with Polliner Tactical and TFB TV Outdoors, and they go out and they do Lynx, which, if you don't know what that is, there's the Lynx Challenge. I think they call it Lynx Brutality, is in Finland. It's like the United States Brutality challenges they do here. So it's a lot of physicality, a lot of training with firearms. I've even seen Print Shoot Repeat go out there and do stuff with them. It's an interesting idea. I think it highlights the 2A. I could love to see Brandon Herrera go in his flip-flops, run some of those drills, just because it would be hilarious. Whether he did it excellently or not, it would be another story. Surprisingly, I wouldn't be surprised to see if the man couldn't actually pull off running those drills that they're doing in flip-flops. But it would be hilarious to watch, especially with him doing with one of his rifles, or if he tried to do it with his AK-50, because that would just be cool. The AK-50 is finished. We've talked about it. It was stolen by Call of Duty. What I mean by that is somebody saw it was cool, put it in a mod that came in for Call of Duty. They didn't ask Brandon. Brandon wouldn't have said no anyway. He said that in the video. I think it's awesome because you're seeing our culture being reflected in culture. You know, video games, I've covered the video game gun thing a little bit. There's a lot of fake stuff there. There's a lot of real stuff there, too. My sons are the biggest critiques, as so is my daughter, of the guns in video games. And you can tell a 2A person who is a video game nut but doesn't know firearms. Apparently, there is a 1911 that's made, or a SIG of some kind, one of their pistols in one of these games that I had a gentleman come up to me and say, "Hey, wow, that's such and such from this video game." And I went, "No, this is a SIG 1911, or this is a Colt 1911. It's not what you just said. They do make those in that caliber, but not this particular one." Wasn't being snooty, just giving him knowledge like I got one. That's the cool thing about doing gun shows, is getting some of that knowledge. You'll get some weird calibers every now and again that people will enlighten you and explain what the deal is with the caliber, you know. The Wonder calibers still persist, you know, the 7mm ARC, the 6.5 ARC, the 6mm ARC. All these are trying to answer questions that I don't believe anybody really answered. They're trying to do stuff with rifles in the AR platform that they're not designed to do. You want long-range precision shooting, you're going to get a bolt gun, period. There's less lock time. You're going to get better precise. The barrels on them are usually better. The optics, for sure, are usually easier to mount and better. I don't know if easier to mount. I'm thinking about that with the AR-15, but they are definitely better. And you can get more performance out of a bolt gun because you can push the load and the cartridge as far as you want until it breaches. And it'd have a lot more overpressure than it would in a semi-automatic, than it would be in a bolt gun. A bolt gun, you could get a lot more pressure in that cartridge and a lot more out of it. Not saying that you should do that, but it's still a thing. That's about all that I've seen that was really cool going on in the 2A. I would check out Washington Gun Law because he does all the gun law stuff. So does Four Boxes Diner. They do it all the time. That's some of the sources I use, as well as The Truth About Guns and several others, because I'm a fan just like you. I keep abreast of the legal stuff mostly because I'm still one of those advocates that will go out and protest on your behalf when I see it necessary. In New Mexico, in northwest New Mexico specifically, we have a senator race that we need to worry about. It's between Martin Heinrich and Nella Domenici. Of the two, Domenici's the lesser of the two evils, and that's saying very little about that because the Domenicis are New Mexicans and have served New Mexico a long time. Nella hasn't. She's lived in New York for a long time until she decided to come back home and run for office. There's some controversy about her with China and some other stuff. And a lot of people talk a lot of smack about people investing and then finding out that investment went to China. I'm going to tell you that probably most of your 401k, the reason why they're probably not doing so well is because they're invested in China in one way or another. And that's just part of the fact. There's a lot of these big entities that are financial entities that went and invested in China without our say. And China's collapsing. Their economy is full-on collapsing. They have a jobless rate that is worse than ours. That's another thing to be talking about when you talk about political debates. How is it that the presidential candidate for one party right now, who is the vice president right now, says on day one she's going to do all these things? Well, what the hell's stopping her from doing it right now? She has the power. She has the capability. She's had it for almost 4 years, and she hadn't done anything with it. But yet there's a lot of people that would give her power again because they're that blinded by hatred of the Orange Man. And I understand that. He is a crass ass, but I'd still take him over the other option any day of the week. To that end, with the new endorsements, and there's a lot of people that are on the left right now that are complaining that there really weren't any election for them. There was no primary. This VP that has been installed as the presidential candidate was given a blessing without any votes. She basically took over the Democratic Party, and they went ahead and installed her without actually her ever appearing on a ballot anywhere. Democracy. They talk about saving our democracy, yet they're not worried about democracy themselves, otherwise they wouldn't do what they're doing. I digress. Other cool stuff. I still am waiting for American ammunition manufacturers to catch up to the world. I know we're at a war footing right now, and we have a lot going on, but some of us have 5.45 and 7.60x39, and we can't get that anywhere else but the United States right now. It'd be nice to have an American company, like AAC, maybe start producing this in quantity. Oh, I know what was really cool that I saw. Military Arms Channel. They put out a video, Tim did, with a Sturmgewehr, an STG-44. Now, it's a semi-automatic one, but it is faithfully replicated down to every nut, bolt, and everything else, except for where the full auto group would go in. It's not capable of accepting a full auto SEER or a group because the ATF sucks. But specifically, these rifles are now available. Now they're going to be about $7,000, which is way outside of my price range, especially for something that I would be a closet queen or a safe queen in my case, because I don't see myself being able to afford the 7.92 by 33 quarts or the 8mm quarts that would be needed. But what's interesting to me is that Tim did a ballistics test, velocity test anyway, between it and the 7.62 by 39, and there was almost no difference. That lends a lot of credence to what Kalashnikov had said about the 30 caliber being the more perfect round for what it was designed to do, and that is transmit energy and do damage. I mean, that's what the rifle was made to do. The 5.45 and the 5.56 do this by speed. That's what they do, is that kinetic energy transfer from taking a bullet that's going almost 4,000 feet a second and stopping it. That causes the damage that you're seeing. Do I believe that the intermediate cartridge is the wave of the future? I think that every military on planet Earth has already decided that. The United States going backwards in time to use the 6.8 by 51, I think is a dubious play right now. We're not 100% on a war footing. We're looking at enemies thinking they're going to have body armor like we do. And judging by what we've seen in Ukraine and what we've seen with the Chinese, I don't think that's really a concern we really need to spend a lot of money on nowadays. I think we would be better finding a weapon that would be just as universally accepted and used as our AR-15 or the M16 worldwide. But that's my own personal opinion. So that's all I got for you tonight. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, be great. And tomorrow I will update you on what's going on with the suppressors. Because, man, it would be great to just get a suppressor. That's the next thing on my purchase list as far as the 2A, along with doing the short-barreled rifle thing for this MP5 that I have. Be great.